Hello, welcome to class today, Thursday, September 21st. Sorry that I am unavailable for period 6. Anybody can be watching this video if you wanted to go back over things. Period 6, this will be your guiding video for the day. I encourage you to make the most out of this and follow the directions I give as we go through these review problems. You're going to need to stop and start the video at your own pace so that you can get the most out of this. First of all, make sure you've turned in assignment 19. We are going to go over that shortly. We are practicing over the same concepts we learned on Wednesday in class. Don't forget your IXL is due on Friday. And finally, you got 3 bell work problems to do today. Problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. Make sure your bell work paper has today's date on it, September 21st. Stop the video now, do those 3 bell work problems, and then return to see if you did them correctly. All right, hopefully you remember from yesterday that a negative exponent does not mean a negative number. And so from the rule we learned yesterday, a to the negative n is 1 over a to the n. That means if you have 3 to the negative 4, that would be 1 over 3 to the 4th. And since the directions say simplify, I would need to figure out what 3 to the 4th is. We have done 3 to the 4th multiple times. Think of that as 3 squared times 3 squared, 1 over 81. Making sure you're paying attention to the directions. Number 2, you've got your product rule here. Hopefully we've got that that's a to the 4th over a to the 5th. And if I have a to the 4th over a to the 5th, that's going to be 1 over a, right? If I think about the subtraction rule here, the quotient rule, I would have a to the negative 1. And if I have a to the negative 1, what does a negative exponent say? Back over here to this rule, 1 over a. This is just a cropped line. That means nothing. Hope that didn't confuse you. Order of operations here says I got to do 3 squared first, so I should have 4 minus 9 plus negative 2. 4 minus 9 plus negative 2. I'm going to keep change here and get negative 5 plus negative 2. And negative 5 plus negative 2 is going to leave me with negative 7. Negative 7. Again, those are your bell work problems. Make sure they are in the bell work section of your binder. All right, we are going to go over assignment not 18. That is a typo, assignment 19 right now. So take a minute, get that out of your binder, get a red pen, and be checking this. Since I'm not here as we're going over this, what I'm going to have you do is just check your answers. And if you don't understand how I got what I got, circle that, and let's talk about that tomorrow in class. Friday in class, we will be working on this lesson again. So try not to let yourself get bogged down and confusing. I know this lesson is hard. That's why we spend 4 days on it, getting it really down pat. So point of this is getting you to see all the different locations of a negative and what a negative does as an exponent versus in a moment what a negative does as a base, and all of those various scenarios. So there is 1 and 2. Here is 3, 4, and 5. Notice when you have a negative base, what happens versus a positive base. All of those things that we worked on and emphasized and went over and over and over before the quiz don't go away. We're just adding this next rule to the bunch there. Notice when you have a negative base and odd exponents, your answer is still negative. When you have a negative base and even exponents, all of those were negative exponents, so all of those were made into fractions. Again, if I'm going too fast through things, you can always back the video up and go back to what you need, slow it down, stop it, write down what you need. Just trying to get through and not have a 50-minute video so that you can finish as you need to. Make sure you know in 7, this is a -2 for the base, and this one is read the opposite of 2. This is going to be negative regardless of the exponent here because it's not in parentheses. And there's 8, 9, and 10. All right. I have in here some from yesterday's in case we did not get the notes finished in class on Wednesday. I'm filming this video way before Wednesday, so I'm just going to go over these again really quick. If we did them already, you can just skip through this. Simplifying number 19 in your notes, 3 would become a 1, and 15 would become a 5, so that would be 1/5. And then when you're thinking about where your y's are, you have 4 y's on top, 6 y's on the bottom. That means you would have 2 y's on the bottom. If we did this with the rule, it would be y to the 4th minus 6, and 4 minus 6 would give me y to the -2, and y to the -2 would put it on the bottom. Lots of reasons the y to the 2nd's on the bottom. It's just emphasizing and showing that off again. This is a really important type question, seeing if you understand it. If I want 32 to be on the bottom, that means x has to be a negative value. And then your job is to figure out how many 2's do I need to get to 32. We've done that problem several times in notes and in homework problems. Hopefully x is -5 is making some sense there. Finally, 21 says, what would x be if I want this to be a -2? So that means I'm taking x minus 8, and I'm getting a -2. So you can solve that as an equation. You can do some mental math there. But if I take away 8, meaning I want more on the bottom, 2 more on the bottom than the top, that means that x would have to be 6. 6 for number 21. Hopefully we got through those in notes on Wednesday. Like I said, I'm filming this before we do notes on Wednesday, and sometimes we don't get through quite all of them, but these are the type of things you need to be doing to handle today's assignment. Okay, what are we going to do for today's notes? What we are doing for today's notes is simply reviewing and practicing all things from yesterday, putting it all together, and just doing a whole bunch of problems. So you're going to take out your notes, and you are going to put review of power rules at the top. You're going to put today's date on there, 9/20. 9/21 will be the date. And then I want you to write down these topics. These are the rules we've learned so far. Remember, I told you we were going to learn a whole bunch. And then I want you to pause the video, and I want you to see how many of those you can write from memory. If all you do is play the video and copy them down just so you can be done, you're probably not doing what you need to do to be successful. So stop the video right now. Come back after you have written those out. Product of powers says if you have two bases raised, or two like bases raised to powers, you can rewrite that as a to the m plus n. I think I have that different in your notes. I probably did m and then n, doesn't really matter. A to the m raised to the n is power to a power. To get to that one, you multiply the exponents. Product of powers says if you have a and b, and remember that can be a, b, c, and d to the m, then you take a to the m and b to the m, and so on. And sometimes that will create a power to a power within it. Quotient of powers says a to the m over a to the n is a to the m minus n. Zero power says anything to the zero power.
Mrs. Cornett, please
Sorry.
report to your classroom. Mrs. Cornett, please report to your classroom.
I'm obviously filming this video in school before hours. A to the 0 is 1. And then the negative power rule says a to any negative exponent is simply 1 over a to the n. We want to make sure that we know that a negative exponent does not mean a negative value. Can be a negative value, but it doesn't mean a negative value. The negative value depends on a. Okay? I finished grading the quizzes last night, and some of you really need to get these down. The quiz grades were great for some, not for others. So if you didn't know these 4 that I highlighted in orange there on the left, you got to get those down, and now we're adding some more that we will be testing over in the future. Our test over this material is Thursday, September 28th. So that's next Thursday, 1 week from today, we will have our test over this material. I'll return your quizzes tomorrow so you can see exactly what you missed, and we can go from there. Okay, first question of our review is, are negative exponents simplified? And the answer to that is no. So when you see the directions simplify, just to review, that means do all the math you can do. And if you're doing all the math you can do and you have 5 to the negative 2, remember that's not negative 25. I will have some of you write it because you're not paying attention. 5 to the negative 2 would equal 1 over 5 squared. And then you would do that, which would give me 1 over 25. So 5 to the negative 2 is 1 over 25, not negative 25. All right, for the rest of this review, I'm just going to put some problems on the screen. In your notes, just number them, write the problem, write the answer. You're going to need to stop and start this. I'll pause after I put it up there. So as soon as you see it, hit pause, write your answer, go. And you can go through the examples as fast as you can. I'll explain each one in an effort to help you be prepared. This is example 1. You do not have to write simplify every time. The directions for all of these examples is simplify, so write simplify at the top and just write the problem number. Hopefully everybody's got 5 to the 0 is 1. That is one of our new rules. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Question 2. Again, write the problem, pause the video, answer the problem, restart the video. I hope you have this as negative 1. Why is this one negative 1 and this one positive 1? The 0 is only touching the 10. This means the opposite of 10 to the 0 power. Opposite of 10 to the 0 power is going to be, 10 to the 0 power is going to be 1, and the opposite would be negative 1. This is problem 3. The answer to problem 3 is not 0. Again, this, or not 1, this is 1. So you would have 8 times 1. Final answer is 8. I don't know why I said 0. I get a lot of kids who want to put 1 for this one. They're like, everything else has been 1. Remember, the exponent is only attached to what it's touching here. This is example 4. Everybody should get this one right. This one was the one I wrote down at the beginning of the notes there. I hope you're not saying negative 25. The rule we wrote at the top of your notes, you look back up there, says this would be 1 over 5 squared, and 1 over 5 squared would be 1 over 25. When you're doing your homework, when you're taking the test, show your intermediate steps in case you make a silly mistake, I can give you partial credit for knowing what you're doing there. That was 4. Here is example 5. This one's going to be 1 over 3 to the 4th. That was part of our bell work. If you've been paying attention, 1 over 3 to the 4th is going to be 1 over 81. Notice, not negative. Negative exponents do not mean negative answers. Problem 6. Couple ways to think about this. You can always revert back to what Mrs. Kern said is always going to work. You can always think about what this means. 2x's over 9x's, when I cancel, means I'm going to have some x's on the bottom. You can use the quotient rule, means you're going to get x to the negative 7. But again, x to the negative 7 is not simplified. Final answer, 1 over x to the 7th power. X to the 7th power. Question 7. They are going to get progressively harder. Got about 8 more to go, maybe 7 more to go after this one. Again, write the problem. Write what you think. If you get it wrong, don't scribble out your answer or erase it. Correct it and look at what you did wrong, and in your head, mentally analyze, where did I make my mistake? Always works to write out what it means. Hope you don't have to do that, but if you're not sure, you can always check that way. I'm going to simplify this by doing the quotient rule first. 4x to the negative 7. And then x is to the negative 7, not the 4, means I'm going to have 4. And the x to the 7 is going to move to the bottom. Why is it on the bottom? Well, again, if you go back to think about what it means, you had 10 x's on the bottom over 3 x's on the top. When I cancel those 3, there's going to be a whole lot left on the bottom. And so I'm just trying to confirm to you that it works either way. Problem 8. Problem 8. Do a piece at a time. Do the numbers, then do the variables. Write out the problem. Stop the video. Restart it when you are done. All right, I'm going to take care of the fraction first, which is going to leave me with 1/5. 6 goes in there once and in there 5 times. Then I'm going to have x to the negative 3, which means the x will end up on the bottom. So I'm going to have 1 over 5x to the 3rd. And again, if you look up here and start the problem, you should say I have more x's on bottom than top. That means I'm going to have x's on the bottom in my answer. Either way, we're proving that negative exponents mean it goes to the denominator. Problem 9. Problem 9. Again, you're going to reduce 12 and 20. It does reduce. 12 doesn't go into 20, but they have a common factor of 4. Dividing both of those by 4 is going to give me 3/5. X to the 4th over x to the 6th is going to give me x to the negative 2, which means the x's are in the bottom of the fraction, 3 over 5x squared. 3 over 5x squared. It's important you learn how to simplify these accurately, because when you get to algebra 1, then you take statements like this and they're equal to other things, and then you solve equations. We're going to be moving to equations next chapter. We're not going to solve any equations with x squareds in them, but you will next year. So we need to understand how to simplify things down so that next year when we move to solving equations, you're not trying to learn how to simplify and solve all at the same time. Here's question 10. You should be a pro at this by now. Is that 10? Yes, you should be a pro at this by now. Write that down. You should be able to say, okay, what do I have? What is it looking like? Hopefully we can all see this is going to be 1/3 x to the negative 5. Negatives go to the bottom. Again, it plays out here. 2x's on top, 7 on the bottom, 1/3x to the 5th. Remember, if everything goes to the bottom, there still's got to be something on top. A lot of times I get kids forgetting to leave that 1 up there. Here is problem 11. Okay, this is back to, oh my gosh, do I really have to do 3 to the 4th and 3 to the 5th? And then 3 to the 12th? That would be enormous to multiply and divide. This is back to those worksheets we went over on Tuesday, Monday in class, talking about how can I make this problem easier. I can use the product rules to get 3 to the 9th over 3 to the 12th. And I can get the quotient rule, 9 minus 12, to give me 3 to the negative 3, which is going to give me 1/3 to the 3rd. And now simplifying that is much easier than multiplying out 3 times 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 3. This is 81 and this is 243. Multiplying those and then dividing it by this would be in an absurdly small decimal. 1/3 to the 3rd would simplify to 1/27. Use the rules to help you make computation easier when possible. Here's number 12. This is when things start getting really challenging. Take the time to write that up. You might be really confused on exactly what to do. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this problem. You can pick whatever way works best in your brain. First option is to use the quotient rule, which would give me a to the negative 4 minus 3. And this is anybody who did not do well with integers. You're going to have to get those down. A minus 4... a to the negative 4 minus 3 is really going to give me a to the negative 7, which means I'm going to have 1/a to the 7th. B was 5 minus negative 2. 5 minus negative 2 is b to the 7th. So my final answer, b to the 7th on top, a to the 7th on bottom. That's option 1. Use the quotient rule. Keep track of where things are. Some of you are really bad with integers. Some of you are really bad with subtracting of integers. If they're all positive, you're good, but if they're not positive, you're a train wreck. If that's you, this option might be better. When I see negative exponents in the problem to begin with, I move them first. So I would rewrite this problem b to the 5th times b to the 2nd, because this would move up, over a to the 4th, b to the 3rd, because this would move down. And then once I cleared the negatives, so it's kind of like clear out the negatives, then I would do my rules that I've learned so far. And here I would have a product rule, which would give me b to the 7th over a to the 7th. Either way, I get the same finalized, simplified expression. If you're good to go and doing math with positives and negative integers, then go for it. Just don't forget what subtracting a negative means. It means you got to add the opposite. You don't get -4 minus 3 and tell me it's 1, which is a lot of kids say -1 because they're doing math in their head and lots going on in their brain. So I use this typically when I'm doing problems by myself, but either method will work. 13. Yeah, they're getting harder. Write out the problem, choose your method, simplify your answer. So I'm going to go with the method I prefer. I'm going to move 4 down, and I'm going to move 4 to the second down, and I'm going to move 4 to the sixth up. So I'm going to have 4 to the sixth over 4 to the second. I'm going to make x to the 0 a 1, and I'm going to move y to the -5 down. So I'm going to have 4 to the sixth, 4 to the second over y to the third, y to the fifth. And now I don't have any zeros left as exponents, and I don't have any negatives left. And now I'm going to do this problem. You can do it this way if you want to. This would leave me with 4 to the fourth. And if you did this math right, you would have had -2 minus -6, which would have left you with 4 to the fourth power in the numerator. This is going to give me y to the 8th. And is that simplified? No, I got to deal with 4 to the fourth. 4 to the fourth is 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Look for shortcuts. 16 times 16. Hopefully some of you know that. If not, definitely easier than multiplying lists of 4. It's going to be 256 over y to the 8th. And last but not least, the challenge problem of the day, problem 14. Be proud of yourself if you get it right. If you don't get it right, analyze where you went astray. But let's look at this one after you have a chance to write it down. Stop the video if you're not done because I'm getting ready to go over it. All right. First thing, I have a negative, which means my answer in the end is going to be negative because it's attached to nothing. I have 6 squared, and I don't have any other bases of 6, so that's going to be -36. I have 2 to the -1, which means that's going to move up. So I'm going to have times 2 to the first. I have n to the fifth and n to the -4th. That means that's going to move up. So I'm going to have n to the fifth times n to the fourth. When I move it, the negative exponent is gone. And y to the -3 to the 8th, I'm going to move down. So I'm going to have y to the 8th times y to the 3rd. Now I've cleared my negatives. I've simplified my coefficient bases. Now I need to simplify this answer and do any math I can. -36 times 2 is going to give me -72. You should be writing this below your answer. I wrote it a little too close to the bottom to do that. N to the fifth, n to the fourth is n to the 9th. And y to the 8th times y to the 3rd is y to the 11th. That is the final answer. Can't do any math with things that aren't like bases. Do not do 6 divided by 2 first. That will end badly. Lots of you did that. Think about order of operations. X squared over 2. If you want to try to do the math with the coefficient or with the quotient rule, it's 5 minus -4, which is how I got a 9. And it's -3 minus 8, which would give me y to the -11, which is why it's in the bottom. All right, once you are done with that video, you may pick up assignment 20. It is again a puzzle problem, and you are going to write your simplified answer next to each expression like we've talked about. You don't have to do the puzzle, but answers are there. A lot of kids get overwhelmed when they see the worksheet. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Don't let the variables and the way it looks like. Take each problem, do each step, find your answers. Cover up the answers till you're looking to see if you have that answer there, and it can confirm your thinking. Submit that paper to Canvas. We will be working on these and talking about them again tomorrow. Feel free to run back through the video if need be, and good luck.